Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm the Senior Vice President of the Bryant Wellness Institutes. We're Louisiana's most advanced functional medicine institutes, and I'm here with my co-host, Brandon Como. Brandon, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Just happy to get the weekend started.
That's it, man. We're getting going. So, for those of you that are new to the show, thank you for tuning in. You're in for a ride. This is the show that very likely could change your life, change your whole future. And for those that now regularly tune into the show and email me questions and who are a regular part of the show, I hope that you're really starting to get an idea of how some of these advanced functional medicine techniques and this program that we do can be so effective at some of today's very worst health challenges out there. And so, guys, we're starting to figure this thing out now. You know, we're making tremendous advances in the field of wellness and functional medicine every year. You know, just like every other profession out there advances and figures out new ways to do what they do better and faster, we're doing the same thing. And so we're really starting to figure out how to get your body to go from crisis, low energy, emergency, fight or flight mode into healing, healthy, functional, long, healthy life mode. And so we're really starting to figure that out. So the first thing today I wanted to do is I wanted to review some of the concepts that I went over last week, because I got a ton of questions about how these concepts are critical to restoring your health and getting your body to heal. So last week we talked a lot about energy levels. I wanted to continue that talk today. And the truth is, we're energetic beings. Our bodies run off of energy, just like gas in your car. Our bodies must have a never-ending supply of energy in order to be healthy. So you can have the most expensive, nicest car in the world, but without gas for energy, it doesn't go. And our bodies must have energy to function and to heal and to make healthy replacement cells and to metabolize fat so that we stay thin and to balance our hormones and to run all of our daily processes. That takes energy. That takes fuel, just like your car takes fuel. And so, you know, Brandon, I thought of a new concept on the way in here this morning to explain what most people do to their bodies and why most of you feel so, you know, unhealthy or fatigued or tired like you do every day. So imagine if you bought a new Corvette and you parked it in your driveway, but then, you know, you filled it up with gas from the old lawnmower gas that you had sitting out behind the shed in the rain that had water in it, and then you put tires from the old Pinto that you had on blocks in the back, you know, that's from the 70s, and then you go try to take that car racing. And then complain because it doesn't have the energy that it should have and it can't make the corners and function like what it should. That's what most people do with their bodies. You know, here's the thing though. People think of when we talk about that your body needs more energy and putting fuel in it, they immediately think we're talking about food and the things that you eat. And you know, that's an important aspect of it. But the most surprising thing about this is it's not everything. Our bodies get energy. Our bodies fill up our energetic tank from a lot of other places. Like, for example, the sun, the Earth's magnetic field, the ground itself. All of that adds energy into our systems, we're now learning. That's why you just can't take vitamins and supplements and get better. And that's why some of these functional medicine programs have you take 60 to 90 different pills a day and take years in order to change your body, is because what you eat is not all of how your body regains its energy or how you can add energy into the system. And so what you're going to see is we have 6 different ways in order to do that our bodies can sort of refill this energetic tank. But let me start by asking all of you listening this morning, do you ever feel like you're burning more energy than what you're making? I mean, do you feel like that your body is running on this energetic debt, barely making it through the day, you know, limping through life? And that's a shame, because you're wasting days feeling drained. You know, we only have a certain number of days here on this planet, and for you to be wasting them feeling drained, you know, unable to play with the grandkids or unable to go dancing with your spouse, to me, that's a tragedy. That's a shame. So the reason that I wake up every morning, the reason that I get out of bed, other than to raise my son, is to try to teach people and to show people that you don't have to live this way. and to show people that there's healthier ways that you can exist other than barely limping through your life. That's such a shame, especially when natural solutions exist in order to try to help you. So we must make more energy than what we're using up. And as long as you're doing that, as long as your body's making more energy than what you're spending, then you're good. Life's great. Your body's in balance and you feel good and your body's healing. All is well. And if you start using up more energy than what you're making, then you're going to be in an energetic debt. So I wanted to review that because that's what we were talking about last week, and a lot of people didn't quite fully understand those concepts. So just like your car, you can't run your car without gas in it. It just won't go. It doesn't matter how nice of a car you have. You still have to have that energy. So people always ask me, how did I get cancer at 50? I've always been felt okay. Or how did I get diabetes at 45? Or why did I get thyroid failure after my pregnancy? Like that why now kind of question. Well, the moment when your body reaches in to get some of that energy reserve and the reserve tank is empty, there's no energy reserve left that your body can pull out to refill its energy reserves, the debt now begins to grow. And the energetic debt begins to build up and get larger and larger. Now, many of you are living this way right now. You can feel that your body is running on an energetic debt every single day. Now, here's the problem. You end up crossing a line one day where your brain finally says, uh-oh, we've got a real problem here. And now your brain goes into crisis mode. And once it does, the entire signaling process of your body begins to change. The way your organs, literally the way your body functions changes from healthy, healing, thriving mode to crisis, emergency, fight or flight mode. So the body signals that we're in real trouble. And once you're in crisis mode, you are in real trouble because you cannot be in crisis mode and healing healthy mode at the same time. It's a physiological impossibility to be crisis mode and healing mode simultaneously. So the brain is going to pick one. And the problem with that is that you get stuck in this crisis mode for years. So the body begins to sort of spiral out of control. And I truly mean that. The body will get into this downward spiral. We go from low energy, causing stress response and causing us to be sick, draining our energy. And that causes us to be sicker, draining more energy, which causes us to be even sicker. And then pretty soon we get a major health crisis happen. So we get stuck in this downward spiral. And then here's what happens next. And this makes even more concerning. This makes this even more of something that we need to get on top of. So what happens then is the brain goes to the assembly line of cell manufacturing, usually the bone marrow, and it says we're in crisis mode. So instead of making cells with these $20 worth of beautiful materials of the highest quality, of the best manufacturing we can, we're in crisis mode, so we have to reserve. So let's make the cheapest, fastest, most weakest cells we possibly can. These are called mutated cells. And then the brain thinks, well, when we just get more energy in a couple of days, we'll replace these bad cells with good cells so everything will be fine. We can't stop making cells altogether because the body will die. So we have to get by with what we can do. Since we're in crisis mode, we're going to reserve all the energy that we can, and we're going to make the fastest, cheapest cells possible. The problem is the day of more energy never comes. This never gets better. And so the body will continually replace its cells with these unhealthy mutated cells. Now, once the thyroid, for example, in Hashimoto's disease, once the thyroid becomes 51% of these mutated cells, your immune system looks at it and says, we don't recognize that anymore. We better go kill that. Now, that's not normal thyroid. In rheumatoid, it's joints. In Crohn's, it's the colon. In multiple sclerosis, it's the nerves. So one of the beginnings of autoimmunity is that this low energy for years and years causes your cells to become mutated and unhealthy. And this is the beginning of a real problem, because once the immune system gets just so overwhelmed, there's just too many mutations to keep up. Now these mutated cells begin to grow out of control, and then that's what we call a tumor. Now, that's how low energy and some of these major chronic life-altering conditions are so related. So you think, well, I just have low energy. I'm just tired. I'm just getting old. I'm 50 now, and I just don't feel like I just don't have the energy that I used to. That's actually not it at all. There's a lot more going on than that. So, our patients tell us all the time, this is the first thing that I've heard about my disease that really makes sense. And so the body is very logical. It will make sense. If someone tells you something about your body or something that's going on and you kind of scratch your head and think that doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense to me, then it's probably not what's really going on. It's probably questionable information. Like somebody says, well, your thyroid just quit working, and well, that just happens sometimes. Well, no, it doesn't just happen sometimes. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. Your organs don't just quit and go on vacation. I always ask the patient, well, if your refrigerator quit working all of a sudden, and the mechanics, the repairman said, well, that's just normal. It just quits every few days. Would that be normal? Of course that wouldn't be normal. So the secret to healing lies in why this is happening and how can we refill the energetic bank account. How can we add energy to your body so it can go from crisis mode to healing mode? And we have 4 ways to stop the energy loss, and we have 6 ways to add back energy into the system, back into the account. And that is where healing begins. That is the secret to our program, is how do we add energy to the system and how do we stop the energetic loss? So you're listening to Get Well Acadiana. I'm Dr. Kevin Linderman, Senior Vice President of the Bryant Wellness Institutes. We're Louisiana's most advanced functional medicine institutes. And listen, if you think these concepts make more sense to you than anything that you've heard lately about why your health is failing, and you'd like me to call you and discuss ways that I might be able to help your specific condition using our unique methods, then all you have to do is call my office and leave your number. Obviously, I'm not there on a Saturday, but if you'll call my office number and leave your phone number, leave your name and number where I can call you back Monday, I'll personally call you first thing Monday when I get to the office and I'll discuss it with you. And if I ever feel like that I can't help you, I won't waste your time. So my number is 837-7174. That's 837-7174. And we can get you headed in the right direction once and for all. So if you're sitting there thinking, you know what, this makes more sense. I do feel like I'm running in an energetic debt. We had better find out why, because that's just the tip of the iceberg, what your cells are actually doing underneath the surface. And we have to catch that now, because the sooner we catch it, the easier it is to fix. So call me at 837-7174 and let's get started. Life is short, so don't waste it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm the Senior Vice President of the Bryant Wellness Institutes. We're Louisiana's most advanced functional medicine institutes. I'm so glad you're joining us today. This is the show that could actually change your future. This show is designed to give you back control of your health. So this is the show that we aim to change the trajectory of your health for the rest of your life. So before break, I was saying that life is short, and to spend days less than great is a real human tragedy, and especially if solutions exist to help you, but you just haven't found them yet. And so, or no one's told you about them yet. So you go on wasting precious days feeling bad. My mission, my purpose in life is to reverse that trend and to show the people of Acadiana that you don't have to live feeling bad. It's not normal for you to be exhausted at the end of the day. It's not okay for you to not have the energy to go throw the ball with your grandkids. That's not okay with me. So if I were to ask you, where is your health headed? Are you going down the direction you would choose? Or have you lost control of your future health status? So I call this the tale of two paths. You know, one individual might be 70 years old, and their health path is they're having the time of their life. They're golfing, they're gardening, they're playing with their grandkids in the yard, doing whatever they want. So the other individual may be 70, and their health path led to a nursing home and constant care just to do the simplest activities of their daily lives. Maybe they even need help dressing and washing themselves every day. Now, these two individuals are the same age, but one went in one direction and the other one, unfortunately, took a very different path. Now, the fork in the road of health for these two people, it didn't happen at 70. It didn't even happen at 65 or 60. The loss of health probably started years or even decades before. One did something that the other one did not. One made health a priority, and the other one, maybe they did not. And so where will your road to health end up? Where is your health road headed, and are you happy with it? If not, let's change it. It's never too late. We can make a U-turn. We can turn it around no matter how bad it seems, or even if some doctor told you that you had to live with this. Don't accept that. You know, that's one of the things, whenever I hear that, always makes me question. You know, I've never told a patient that this is something that you'll have to live with for the rest of your life. You know, Brandon, that would assume that if I were a doctor and I said, you know what, this is something you're going to have to live with, that would mean that I know every treatment available on the face of the earth and know how that particular patient is going to respond to each one of those treatments. Pretty arrogant statement to assume that. So I've told patients that I may not be able to help them, but that doesn't mean that I know that every other treatment on earth is not going to be able to help them. So don't accept nonsense like that as the final answer when it's your life at stake, when it's your health and when it's your health path that you're on. So which health path are you headed? Are you happy with the direction that health path is going? Or do we need to make a turn somewhere? Do we need to make a U-turn and put you on a healthier path? So maybe, just maybe, we can make a difference. But the sooner we start, the better the outcome. So last week, we discussed some things that can drain your energetic bank account. And we didn't have time to discuss the last few ways. So that's what today's show is going to be about. We're going to continue that discussion. So we're discussing ways that your body is losing its energy reserves. So we've been saying that your body runs off of energy, never-ending supply of energy in order for it to be healthy. And when you lose that energetic bank account, when you're burning more energy than your body is able to make, you're running at an energetic debt. And this causes disease and loss of health. And when you run in this energetic debt for too long, the body goes into crisis mode and starts shutting down non-essential systems. Like, I'll give you a great example. Your digestive system. I mean, your body, if it's in emergency crisis mode, is not going to spend a lot of time properly digesting your food. And also cell manufacturing processes. Your body is not going to make the healthiest, best cells it can when it's in emergency crisis mode. So your body cannot be in crisis mode and healing mode at the same time. Last week, we began to explain why we must handle this energetic debt for healing to occur. Your body wants to heal. We were designed to get better. You know, we're not supposed to be stuck in this vicious cycle of disease. We went over 2 or 3 things that can cause this, but I didn't have time to discuss the other ones last week, so I wanted to continue that discussion. And there are several things that can drain your energy faster than you can make it. And here's the problem. Your body isn't just dealing with 1 or 2 of these things. So if I tell you 5 things that can drain your energy faster than your body can make it, if you had 1 or 2 of those, you might be okay. The problem is most people have 4 or 5, all of them. And all of these things added up leads to a really energetically drained body, an energetically drained system. So the first one we went over, just for a quick review, is environmental toxins. Environmental toxin can drain your energy reserve. And, you know, the average American now takes in 14 pounds of toxins into their body every single year. And that's way too much. Our bodies do have a natural system to detoxify themselves. And, you know, I hear that from other doctors all the time. They say, all that cleansing stuff, our bodies have its own ways to detox itself. Well, that's true, but not at this level. Not at the amount of toxin and chemical and pesticides and toxic plastics that we're exposed to. And I know I talk about this all the time, and I don't want to bore you guys with this, but that's because this is the epidemic of our time. You know, this period in history, speaking of our health problems, when we look back 100 years from now, this generation, this chemical processes will be talked about. this will be the generation that we made ourselves sick with the unbelievable amount of chemicals and toxins that we're putting into our body and that we're taking into our body every year. This will be talked about generations from now as the generation of chemical toxicity. So your body is using too much energy just to detoxify its tissues and to deal with these poisons that we're taking in on a daily basis. And this has become a very energetically expensive part of our body's day. So this is one of those things that drains our energetic bank account very quickly. We also talked about heavy metals like lead and mercury, very, very taxing to our system. We discussed several ways that your body is getting exposed to mercury, and I'm not going to go back over them. You guys can, by the way, go back and listen to the show. All you have to do is look up KPEL's website, and in the search bar, put Get Well Acadiana or Get Well, and all of my shows will come up. So if you're interested in understanding about how these heavy metals and mercury get stuck in our system, you can always go back and listen to the previous shows. But these heavy metals like leads and mercuries are very, very toxic. And mercury is the second most toxic substance to humans next to plutonium. I had a patient a few weeks ago that his mercury was so high that the lab was legally obligated to call the state of Louisiana Board of Health, and they contacted me wanting an explanation about why this happened and what's wrong, what's going on with this patient. We had to do what's called an exposure review. And the thing is, this patient had no idea he had this in his body. He didn't even come into me for that. And all of the doctors, not one of them had caught this out of all the blood tests he's had and all the doctors he's been to. But you know what? That mercury in his brain probably would have led to dementia or, some kind of Alzheimer's-like condition. Who knows what would have happened? Mercury wreaks havoc in the body. And in fact, Brandon, an interesting thing about mercury, have you ever heard of the expression mad as a hatter?
Yes.
Okay. So in the 1800s, hat makers used to use mercury in the pressing of hats. And they all had like this dementia and Alzheimer's and depression and anxiety, bipolar disorders. They were all kind of crazy. They were all a little bit nutty. And no one knew why. They just knew that most of the hat makers acted a little bit crazy. So they all had mercury poisoning. That's where mad as a hatter came from.
Wow.
So mercury exposure in Louisiana is a huge problem. We have one of the highest concentration in the country of heavy metal exposure. And so we talked about that last week. Now, then we also discussed something called stealth infections. These are infections that can get in the deep, deep recesses of your body that are not bad enough. You don't have enough of an infection, so you're like, I have a cold or I have a fever or I must be infected somewhere. These are low-level infections, and one example we used was like in a root canal can become infected, and what it does is it just slowly over the months drips a little bit of infection out into your body slowly. So you get this drip, drip, drip of an infection out in your body. Old surgical implants and old surgical scars, you can get these. Anywhere where you have a deep crevice in your body that your immune system can't get into. And this can make your immune system matter and matter and matter because it can't get to it. So it keeps trying harder and harder. And this is one of the beginnings of autoimmune disease. And add that to draining, and you can add that to the other ways that your body is draining its energetic bank account. And so you can see this is one of the ways that you can have energy drained from your body, and it can make your immune system in chaos and can drain your energetic reserves. Now, we also discussed something called cell wall deficient bacteria and how that can drain your body and cause chaos in your body systems. And that's where antibiotics fire in, and instead of completely engulfing and surrounding and wrapping up any bacteria or viruses in your body and completely destroying it, like wrapping it in a bag first, that the antibiotics come in and it fires and blows the cell wall off of the bacteria but leaves it viable. So antibiotics blow the bacteria into pieces, leaving all of these biotoxins in the body, and every now and then you can get one of those bacteria that's still viable but without their cell wall, so your immune system can't recognize it, and that can wreak havoc on your immune system and drain your energy and create autoimmune diseases. Now, 80% of the antibiotics produced in the United States go in our food supply and are in our food and are in agriculture. So it's not about taking a round of antibiotics. That's not what we're talking about. You're taking in antibiotics every time you eat food. So again, we're discussing why your energy is being drained and why your body can't heal. Your body is burning so much energy to deal with all these things that it stays stuck in crisis mode. And you cannot be in crisis mode and healthy mode at the same time. Most of you are stuck in crisis mode. Now, we're going to introduce you to two more things that are draining your energy. But if this is the first thing we deal with when we begin to look at our patients, then we can start to figure this thing out. So the first thing that we look at when a patient comes in that's in crisis mode and their body is not healing, we ask, why are these cells doing what they're doing? What is draining this patient's energy? What is keeping their body into crisis mode? And how can we refill that energetic account? How can we get them from crisis emergency mode into healing, happy, healthy mode? Now, the next thing that you should be aware of is leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut syndrome is something that almost all Americans have, and we're going to discuss that whenever we get back from break. But if you want to talk to me about your health problems, call my office and leave your name and number. And when I get back in Monday, I will call you and discuss whether I think some of these new amazing methods might help you with your individual health condition. And remember, it's never too late. Don't take you just have to live with this as an answer. My office number is 837-7174. That's 837-7174. We'll get into leaky gut when we get back. Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm the Senior Vice President of the Bryant Wellness Institutes, Louisiana's most advanced functional medicine institutes. I'm so glad you're listening to the show today. We're discussing what's causing your body to be trapped in sickness and disease and what is draining your energetic bank account so that you're running in this constant energetic debt. And you cannot be in energetic debt crisis mode and healing mode at the same time. So the key to getting you healthy, getting you on that pathway to where you're healthy and functional and able to do whatever you want as long as possible is how do we get your body to refill its energetic reserves? And we've gone over a few things and we reviewed some things from last week's show, but today I wanted to discuss leaky gut. The standard American diet is the perfect prescription to give someone leaky gut syndrome. So what is leaky gut syndrome? Basically, the food that we eat is supposed to stay in our digestive tract until it's fully broken down to its smallest component. Meaning, if I swallow a bite of chicken, that chicken, as I chew it and as it goes through my stomach and my intestines, should be broken down into its smallest component called amino acids, proteins and amino acids, and those amino acids should pass through my digestive tract and into my blood to be used. Now, if I swallow a piece of broccoli, that broccoli is supposed to be broken down into its smallest carbohydrates and then passed into my bloodstream to be used. That's what my digestive tract is supposed to do, is to break food into its smallest components. Now, leaky gut means that the lining of your digestive tract has been damaged and it's created holes right through into your bloodstream. So you have to understand, if you can imagine this in your mind, your digestive tract and your blood system, your arteries are right next to one another. And that food gets broken down and it goes through the wall of the digestive system and into our bloodstream. So your colon and your small intestine and your stomach are lined with arteries. And these arteries are what pick up that food after it's broken down from us eating it. Now, leaky gut means the lining of your digestive tract has been damaged. And that's created holes right through that gut lining. So you get a pass-through from our digestive system right into our bloodstream. So these holes in our gut cause our food to get through early. So instead of having our food broken down completely into its components that are supposed to be filtered through into our bloodstream, you have food particles get through early. So instead of having protein from our chicken broken all the way down into amino acids designed for our blood, we literally get a piece of chicken floating into our bloodstream. Imagine that. Or instead of broccoli broken down into its simplest carbohydrates, we literally get a chunk of broccoli floating around in our bloodstream. Our body can't recognize this, and you get a systemic immune system reaction. our body's immune system will go into overdrive, and it'll send white blood cells and an inflammatory response to go destroy that piece of food. It sees that as a foreign invader, not as a piece of chicken. It sees that as something that's not supposed to be in our body. It doesn't recognize that as food. This is a major energy drainer in your body. This takes a ton of energy for your body to deal with this. So imagine every time you eat, food is leaking into your bloodstream, and it's like poking the bear of your immune responses, making it madder and madder. So this is going to drain your energy reserve, create autoimmune responses, and cause all sorts of digestive and immune conditions. And this is a huge problem for Americans. I would be willing to bet that if I gave you an hour, you could not find me one person on the street that did not have leaky gut. The reason is the number one thing that causes leaky gut syndrome is the herbicide Roundup. Now, Roundup is in literally everything that we eat or drink. It's in our water supply. They find it in everything they test, even organic cereals and foods. Even some of the organic stuff I eat, they found traces of Roundup in. Because it's so widely used now, South Louisiana has one of the highest concentrations in the world of spraying Roundup. It's in everything. It's on our ground. It's in our water. Every time we eat, we're provoking our immune system, causing this systemic autoimmune reaction, which eventually goes haywire against us. And that's a huge problem when we think about how many times we eat. Now, especially if you consider the fact that 80% of autoimmune regulation occurs in your gut. Guys, listen. Your gut is a huge battlefront where the fight for health begins. And if you don't have a good, healthy digestion, if you don't have good, healthy gut function, solving almost all health problems in your body is hopeless. This is a major energy drainer. And until this is fixed, no matter what disease you have, you will not heal. This will continue to be a problem. We do a lot with gut health. It's always at the top of our list. You know, when we have a patient come in with tons of health problems, we always make a list of like priorities, like what do we do first and what do we do second? And a lot of times we have to look and go from worst to not worst on what do we attack first, because most people, the truth is, you know, the truth is when a patient comes in, patients are generally wondering, man, I hope he can figure out what's wrong with me. Honestly, when patients come to me, they have so much wrong with them, it's hard to even know where to start. Like finding something wrong is not the problem. It's figuring out they have so many things going wrong. It's like, where do we even begin? Now, here's another tip about leaky gut syndrome. If you're taking probiotics, you know, probiotics are what everyone says to take to try to help with your digestion. That's the healthy bacteria that line our digestive tract. But if you have leaky gut syndrome, that's bacteria you're eating. Good bacteria, but it's meant to stay in your digestive tract. That's good bacteria that's spilling out into your bloodstream. Your system is going to start causing an immune reaction to have to go kill those bacteria. So be cautious about this use of constant probiotics. They're great. We use them all the time, but they have their time and place. We absolutely use them in the office, but this constant use of probiotics all the time, especially if the leaky gut is not fixed first, it will cause you more harm than good. So if you have disease, this is one of those places where the devil lies in the details. You know, you can't be a lazy doctor and figure all this out. This can't be figured out with a 3-minute office visit. You know, you can't just sort of run through this real quickly and throw a few things at you and get this fixed. You have to have extensive knowledge about the latest research from all over the world. A lot of this stuff comes from German biological medicine doctors. And so you have to have cutting-edge technology to solve this stuff. So all of this has to be applied in the right time, at the right amount, at the right, you know, in the right formulation. You can't just take probiotics and hope that fixes you, or start taking a multivitamin and hope that fixes your energy. You have to get this thing under control. So you're listening to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I'm the Senior Vice President of the Bryant Wellness Institutes. If you're thinking to yourself, that sounds like what I've been dealing with, he sounds like he's making more sense than anyone I've heard. And if you're wondering if you could find out if these methods might help you, call my office and leave your name and number on my machine, and I will personally call you back when I get to the office Monday to discuss if my methods might help your individual health conditions. The phone number is 837-7174. That's 837-7174. Or you can get those numbers on Facebook at the Bright Wellness Institutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. And before the break, we were discussing leaky gut. And I didn't have time to tell you, but we have found the only supplement in the world that has been proven to be able to heal those intestinal linings so that we can seal up that hole between your digestive tract and your bloodstream so we can heal leaky gut. But it's not something that we say stays healed because you're always going to get exposed to Roundup and the leaky gut will come back. So that's not something that we say it's fixed, but we do get it to correct itself and then we manage it so that we can keep it in good shape. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about today was genetics, and I just wanted to touch on this because I'm getting close to being out of time, but we mean something different than what was meant in the past. In the past, we used to say things like, well, my mom had diabetes, so, I have diabetes. Or, I've even heard people say, well, my mom had headaches, so I get headaches. About 5% of the population that's true for, but the vast majority, 95% of the genetic issues that we find are genes that can turn themselves on and off. So people ask me all the time, why all of a sudden did this happen to me and I was fine? Well, you did enough damage and enough bad stuff got into your body that it caused the reaction of inflammation and it turned that bad gene on. So only about 5% of you're born with, you have what your parents had, you're born with. Now, we know now that bad genes can remain dormant for years and then turn themselves on after enough damage is done. This is a new field of genetics called epigenetics, which literally means above the genome. And I'm going to get into this a lot more next week, and we'll talk about how do we get those bad genes turned off and keep them turned off. For instance, you have MTHFR gene, which is a massive problem. This makes you 70% unavailable to create B vitamins, which you talk about chronic fatigue and disease. Somebody with MTHFR defect, definitely a problem. There's another one called HLD-DR genetic defect, which means when that person gets around mold and they have that genetic trait, they will instantly become sick. And about 23% of the population has this. It's about 1 out of every 4 people. This is a massive problem in Louisiana. I mean, we live in the flooded building capital of the country. So, mold, if you have this defect and you get around mold, you can be sick. And here's the interesting thing about this gene is that once it turns itself on, you can remove yourself from the mold, but it doesn't turn itself back off. Once you get around that mold, it turns itself on, and it's very, very difficult to get it to turn itself off. And so we have a way that we can try to get that done. So we now know that genetics plays a big role, but it's not like what we used to think. And I'm going to dive into this next week and talk a lot more about this epigenetics and how do we get these bad genes turned off. But just to give you the quick answer of this, so your body goes through, let's say, a grocery list of like 100 processes. And turning these bad genes off or keeping the bad genes turned off is, say, number 60 on that list. So if you got a grocery list and let's say you had a certain amount of money and you had priorities of what you had to buy first, you might not be able to afford what's at the bottom of that list. And that's exactly the way your body does. You have this energetic debt, and as it's spending energy taking care of all these other bodily processes, turning those bad genes off or keeping them turned off is pretty low on the grocery list. And so if we can refill your energetic debt, your energetic bank account enough to keep these bad genes turned off, we have to really do a lot of processes. You have to have the energy to take care of a lot of things before that happens. So it comes down once again to just causing your body to go from crisis, low energy, emergency, barely surviving mode to thriving, healing, making healthy cells, full of energy, plenty of that energetic reserve mode. Now, if you're tired of patching up ever worsening symptoms while you lose more and more control of your health, then this program just might be for you. If you're concerned about that health pathway that we discussed at the beginning of the show, one person is 70 playing with their kids, or grandkids, the other person is 70, they're in a nursing home. If you're worried about where your path is headed, if you feel like you're losing control of your health, if you don't like the pathway that your life and health are headed down, I want you to know that it can likely make a turnaround. We very likely can resolve much of these things that I spoke about today, and the truth is, your body has no choice but to heal. If we start to refill this energetic debt and we start to add energy to your body, there's a great chance that your body can heal and be much, much healthier. And if we can get you out of crisis mode and get your body into healing mode, then your body can begin to get rid of some of these chronic conditions that you've been suffering with, and we can get you headed in the positive direction. So if you want to discuss this further with me, I'll call you back Monday when I get to my office. Just call 837-7174 and leave your name. This could change your life. The number is 837-7174, and we'll discuss your health challenges. I don't care whether it's really bad. I don't care if you've been told that you have to live with this. We can likely turn this thing around. So just give us a call at 837-7174, or you can join me on Facebook at the Bryant Wellness Institutes. I do a show there called Dr. Kevin Live and Online, Thursdays at lunch. So that was Facebook at the Bryant Wellness Institutes. Thank y'all. Have a great weekend. We'll discuss more genetics next week. See you then.